Boruto's plan to save Himawari from her fate of death. Yeah, I'm Nim without an E. At least that's our main topic for the next 8 minutes or so. First and foremost, to be honest, I don't know where to start. But when I tried to reread the dialogue between Koji and Inojin, especially with the new jutsu that Koji will teach, I thought this could be a pretty interesting topic. Yeah, the essence of the conversation between Kashin Koji and Inojin basically leads to one goal, which is that Koji wants to tell Inojin that he has successfully created a jutsu to avenge Himawari. However, if the context is revenge, who exactly is Koji referring to? Is this related to Jura? I mean, we know that after the revelation of Kurama inside Himawari's body, Jura, who was originally targeting Naruto, switched his target to Himawari. As we know from chapter 10, there was a very sadistic moment when Jura broke Himawari's leg and even almost killed her. But luckily, Boruto managed to save Himawari and take her away from Jura. And if we consider the context of revenge, was it just Inojin's anger and deepest desire that made him create a new jutsu in the future to protect Himawari? Regardless of the theories and speculations about the type and nature of the jutsu that Inojin will master in the next few chapters, I am actually more focused on these two issues: revenge or actually avenging Himawari's death. And honestly, I don't think I'm the first person to suspect that the context here is avenging Himawari's death. Because basically from the fan responses I've read in every comment after chapter 27 came out, the majority think that it represents Inojin's desire to avenge Himawari's death. And therefore Koji's position is so important in avoiding the worst case scenario, right? But there is one thing that I think really makes us curious. If it is true that it is to avenge Himawari's death in the future, it means that Ikimoto has indirectly created a scenario or hint that Kurama will not actually be able to provide enough power when Himawari fights Jura in the future. Is that right? Regardless of the fact that in the end this won't happen because Koji or even Boruto have other scenarios to prevent the worst future from happening, but in your opinion, is it possible or reasonable that in the end Jura will truly become the ultimate villain that no one can defeat, not even Hima and Kurama? But honestly, I don't think so. I mean, there will be too many unpredictable plot twist scenarios to take him down. Still talking about Boruto and Himawari's fate of death. After Koji's confirmation about the worst possible future for Himawari, do you believe that at that moment, Boruto had actually taken actions beyond Kashin Koji's expectations? Especially after he found out that his younger sister had the QB inside her body. Initially, when Boruto was in Konoha to stop the invasion, he was still following Koji's instructions. Boruto was in no hurry to defeat the tree god humans who had been born. However, Boruto's expression immediately changed after he found out that there was a QB inside Himawari's body. After that, we are immediately presented with a very cliffhanger continuation of the story. There is no further conversation between Boruto and Koji about the QB that has been resurrected inside Himawari's body. We only see Boruto successfully saving Himawari just in time. Boruto's life almost ended due to Jura's Bijudama bullet, but luckily, good fate was still on his side. However, if at this point you still don't understand and it sounds like small talk, honestly, no. Because once we understand this scene, it actually leads us to the ending part that serves as the conclusion of Boruto's scenario, which is triggered by several things, such as the secret information Koji hides about the QB and Himawari. But anyway, in the following chapters, Koji mentions that Himawari must not leave or step outside the Hidden Leaf Village, because if she does, it will trigger Jura's movement. And at this point, there's a clear pattern when Koji confirms things involving both Boruto and Himawari. In previous chapters, Koji stated that if Boruto interferes and goes to the battlefield, Jura will also move. And if that happens, Boruto is done for. From this, it can be concluded that the reason Koji did not tell Boruto about the QB in Himawari's body was because he did not want Boruto to focus too much on saving his sister, while Boruto himself was Jura's main target. The longer Boruto follows Koji's instructions, the more he suspects that Koji intends to sacrifice some people in order to awaken the power needed to defeat Jura. Most likely, in several chapters before Boruto offered a deal to Momoshiki, Koji had already told Boruto about Himawari's death in the future, or maybe he'd even known about it beforehand. And judging from how Boruto watches Himawari from a distance, there must be a deeper reason behind it. But does that really make sense? Because if we think about it logically, why would Boruto suddenly start watching his little sister inside the house? I mean, is this the first time he's done that? Or did he simply not pay much attention to Himawari before? For me, the key moment that made me rethink everything was when Boruto was watching Himawari. That's exactly when he decided to make a deal with Momoshiki, asking him to lend his power. And again, believe it or not, at this point, a suspicion arises that Boruto actually already knew about Himawari's fate, either from Koji or from Momoshiki's ability, but judging from his expression, it seems like Boruto already knew from Koji. However, this is still debatable. In other words, Boruto has always had a cold expression. In any situation or condition, he never really shows any excessive emotion, only his cold expression. And that also means Himawari's fate of death was actually already known, either by Boruto himself or even by Koji. But what do you guys think? And if this scenario ends up happening, we will get a plot twist scene similar to when Kawaki suddenly appeared in the middle of the fight between Boruto and Jura. That is, if Boruto already knew about Himawari's death in the future, then we will see a very surprising plot twist. Yeah, that's how it is. And as we already know, Boruto once surprised everyone by revealing to Kawaki the offensive power that Amado had restricted. That action allowed Boruto to stay alive while still holding on to the hope of saving his friends from the Divine Tree humans. This means there's a chance that Boruto can't completely avoid his fate, or that he still holds on to an alternative hope, or perhaps the opposite. And one thing that's now nearly impossible to avoid is that Boruto will have to fight Jura again. But what makes this even more interesting is that many fans are hoping the trigger this time will be Code. I mean, even though Code doesn't know Koji's exact hiding place, he at least knows what Koji fears the most. If Code somehow causes Jura to get involved, to kill Boruto and devour Himawari, the story would definitely get a lot more intense. But if you're wondering how Code could possibly do that, one thing's for sure, it would be by luring Boruto and Himawari out of Konoha. Simply put, either through his claw marks or some other method that forces them to leave the village. And as a final conclusion, I think the scene where Boruto watches Himawari from afar while also making a deal with Momoshiki clearly shows that Boruto already knew the worst possible outcome in the future, Himawari's death. He can't completely rely on Koji, especially when it means sacrificing some of his friends. That means to prevent more casualties and to protect a future that he believes in, Boruto chooses to follow his own path and his heart instead of walking the route Koji has already planned out. And the fact that Koji involved Inojin in this whole scenario was likely just to create more branching futures, to avoid the worst possible one. But we all know Boruto. Ever since he realized that Koji deliberately let some of his friends die for the sake of an ideal future, Boruto already knew what he needed to think and what he had to do. Also, if in that timeline there truly exists a probability where Himawari dies at Jura's hands, I still find it hard to believe that Kurama would lose. Logically, if Himawari dies, Kurama dies too. I mean, with the confirmation that Himawari has surpassed her predecessors, it's nearly impossible and hard to accept that she would be defeated by the incarnation of the Ten Tails. Yeah, you know what I mean, right? But whatever your opinion is, let's discuss it in the comments. Thank you for watching. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next video. Bye-bye, Dada Bio.